Welcome to the Astrology Show with your host, Kelly Fox. Each week, Kelly will give you access to the current transits that are a valuable tool which provide astrological information to help unlock the potential each of us has through our sun sign. Understanding the current planetary influences each week can help steer us in the right direction to make better informed choices. Sometimes, events in your life may seem completely random, but there is a pattern to the order of these events, one set in motion in part by you and in part by the planets and stars in the sky and their influence on your life here on Earth. So if you're wondering what's going to happen in your week ahead, if you're going to get that promotion, move to a new city, or fall in love, tune in to the Astrology Show for guidance. It can help you anticipate problems before they occur, give you tools to cope with changes, and help you look forward to the wonderful days ahead. Kelly Fox is a professional astrologer and internet pioneer who launched astrology.com, one of the first and most successful astrology websites. Today, her passion lies with her new site, theastrologer.com, where she brings a modern-day approach to an ancient wisdom. Please join Kelly each week to learn more about how the planets can align for you.
Hi there, and welcome to the Astrology Show. I'm your host and astrologer, Kelly Fox. This week, like I do every week, talk about what's happening this week according to the stars. And this week, I'm happy to report it's a fairly quiet week. Not very much is going on this week. Some weeks it's just crazy busy, and other weeks like this week, it's pretty quiet. So we've got a bit of a reprieve this week. Maybe not so much for the mutable signs, and the mutable signs being Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Pisces. But everyone else will have a bit of a reprieve. And the sun moves into Gemini on Friday. And then there's a full moon in Sagittarius on Saturday. So the rest of the week, starting from yesterday through Friday, there's only fairly mild moon aspects. And each day most days we have some type of planetary influence. But what I report on each week on this show are aspects between the sun out through Pluto. I don't typically report the moon aspects because the moon makes so many aspects to the planets each and every day and it's so fleeting, it moves so fast that the effect of the moon's aspects or influences don't last for too long. And in some cases, thank goodness for that. So this week, we only really have two primary aspects or influences, and that's the sun moving into Gemini on Friday and the full moon in Sagittarius on Saturday. So both these influences are mutable, which means Gemini is a mutable sign, Sagittarius is a mutable sign. So it's all about flexibility and going with the flow, which is good news because sometimes with full moons they can be quite frustrating. And we're usually, if it's affecting us, we're standing at odds with somebody or a certain situation. But when it's in a mutable sign like it is on Saturday in Sagittarius, it's more about being flexible, and compromise should come easily if there are any challenges or barriers in front of you. So under the Gemini Sun, so the sun moving into Gemini on Friday, and the sun moves into Gemini at 7:37 a.m. Pacific time, and it will stay in Gemini through June 20th. So for the next few weeks, and of course depending on the sun in Gemini and how it influences your natal chart, but most of us may find that our social life will get a big boost. So there's going to be a lot of social activity for lots of us, particularly for the air signs, and the air signs are Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius. So we're going to be very busy because Gemini is very busy and sociable. And many of us will be in the mood to connect. So we want to reach out and socialize and connect with other people, and everything will be very fascinating. And we will have fun meeting people, even you introverts out there. It will be a time to get out and socialize. We might learn something. And many of us, our networking skills are in top form. So that means with this influence of the Gemini Sun, we want to get out and connect with people, meet new people, learn new things. We're versatile, we're social. It's a great time for making new friends and finding out information. Many of us, our mental energy will be very high because Gemini is an air sign, and air signs have a reputation of being intellectual, being cerebral, being very smart, knowing lots of things. The air signs being Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius. But with Gemini, Gemini is very busy intellectually, and so some of us might find that our mind might be scattered. There's lots of different things we want to do at this time. Multitasking is one of them, but it's going to be important to prioritize. So have priorities, because there's going to be lots of things going on, not just socially, but intellectually as well. And also under the influence of Gemini, many of us will have an insatiable curiosity. And that could lead us in all sorts of interesting directions. The mind will never be satisfied with the influence of the Sun in Gemini. We need to know, and we need to get to the bottom of things, and we need to find out all sorts of things at this time. We might also find ourselves being drawn to signing up for a class or a course. If it's online, so much the better. So it's a great time to take a class or a course or to learn something new. Reading. Many of us lead very, very busy lives. No time for reading. Even if it's a magazine, take some time out, read a magazine. It's sort of like giving the mind a rest by reading a magazine, tuning out for a few minutes. Instead of having a meditation or sitting quietly, our mind needs to be constantly engaged under the influence of a Gemini Sun. And so much the better if it's a book and you're learning something new. This is a great time for reading and learning and finding out all sorts of information. So we have an urge to learn new things, but the issue might be we might have a hard time settling our mind onto one subject for too long. The key word when the Sun is in Gemini is variety, and boredom might come easily to many of us. Gemini is a sign that gets very bored very quickly, and the mind needs to be constantly engaged. Many of us at this time will have the gift of the gab. And so what that means is we can talk our way out of anything typically. It's also an auspicious time for making sales pitches and marketing, using our marketing skills. Because we are so good and articulate and eloquent, others will be listening. So this is also a good time for writing, editing, public speaking, teaching, also favourable, making great progress and improving communications with loved ones and in our work lives. People will be listening, people will be articulate. It's great for communication, speaking up and you will be heard. Now, during the full moon in Sagittarius on Saturday, Sagittarius is a very happy-go-lucky, optimistic sign. The full moon amplifies anything that it touches, or it illuminates issues or anything that comes about. Now, the key here with the Sagittarius full moon is to not be too dogmatic, not be too focused on one particular thing. And as I said before, the key word here is versatility, adaptability, and being flexible. The good thing is, it's like with that sort of energy, we don't get stuck in one way, and it's easier to find a compromise. The Sagittarius full moon is all about exploration and adventure, travel, and it also, like Gemini, because Gemini and Sagittarius are opposite signs, it's also very important to keep boredom at bay. With the influence of Gemini and Sagittarius, both these signs get very bored very quickly. So with the sun moving into Gemini and then the full moon the next day in Sagittarius, that means that the sun opposes the moon. In these opposite signs, it's all about not being bored or not being too clever as well, because both these signs are quite intellectual, and sometimes there's not a competition on who's the smartest, but there could be a little bit of one-upmanship with these types of influences. So it's very important to not be bored, keep your mind busy and active, social, connect with friends, and get out there and sign up for a class even. After the break, I will continue more about this week's influences.
Bringing you the best of the conscious minds in the world. OMTimes Radio, your conscious lifestyle on steroids.
The truth is, you can't change the world if you're broke. I know, I tried. Isn't it time you turned your life's calling into a profitable, freedom-based business? I'm Michelle Barr. Join me every Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern for Sacred Success.
Being a radio host on OMFM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single OMTimes endeavor. Host your show with OMTimes Radio Network. Have you ever wondered how to change your love paradigm? The secret key is finding a love partnership, not just a regular connection. How do you find these? Through conscious relationships. Ascending Hearts Dating is a dating site for people like you that believes in second chances and a different type of spiritual connection. Try Ascending Hearts for free today at ascendinghearts.com and change your love paradigm. Ascending Hearts, the premier dating community for the spiritually awake.
Have you bought into the idea that you have to work hard for your money, that business is hard? I will share some dynamic access consciousness tools to get you out of your own way so you can create a business that actually succeeds. Join me, Simone Millisers, on The Joy of Business at 4 p.m. Mondays Eastern.
The Real Conscious Connection. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Hi there, welcome back to the Astrology Show. I'm your host and astrologer, Kelly Fox. This week, I'm talking about the Sun in Gemini, which happens on Friday, and then straight after that on Saturday, the full moon in Sagittarius. They are the two main influences, the two main astrological influences this week. So we have a reprieve during the week, and then Friday, Saturday, we've got the Sun in Gemini, and then the full moon in Sagittarius. So I want to take a step back and take a look at the Sun in Gemini and what it means, and then what it means for your sign. So the Sun moves into Gemini on Friday, this Friday the 20th, at 7:37 a.m. Pacific time, which of course is 10:37 a.m. Eastern time, and it will stay in Gemini until June 20th. And that's typical when the Sun moves into a sign. It will stay in a sign for approximately 4 weeks. And when the Sun moves into a sign, it's never according to the calendar. So in astrology, it's not calendar-based as we know it. So you won't find that that the Sun will move into a sign on the 1st of every month. The calendar actually came after the Sun moving into signs and anything astrological. So under the influence of a Gemini Sun, and of course it will depend on your astrological chart personally, and your astrological chart is based off your time of birth, date of birth, and place of birth. So it's your own unique thumbprint or fingerprint. And so the Sun moving into Gemini will affect each and every one of us in a different way, because we're more than just our sun sign. At the time we were born, all the planets were in all different signs, and that's what makes us who we are. And then those planets relating to each other gives another dimension, and then so on from there. So the Sun moving into Gemini will have a different effect on all of us, but generally speaking, Gemini has some key influences, and one of those, anytime I think of the Sun in Gemini, I think, oh, it's time to have fun. It's time to be busy. It's time to reach out to others and accept all social invitations and make lots of connections through networking. And at this time, many of us may find ourselves very cerebral, because Gemini is an air sign, and the other air signs are Libra and Aquarius. So Gemini being a very intellectual sign and cerebral, that many of us during this 4-week period may find ourselves living in our head rather than in our body. So it's important to calm the mind and stay focused, because Gemini can get quite distracted at times. So we might find also during this time period of when the Sun's in Gemini that our decisions will probably be logically based and not emotionally based. So it's not good or bad, it's just what it is. And with this type of intellectual influence, it definitely is more intellectual rather than emotional. So any sort of choices we make at this time when the Sun is in Gemini could, of course, be on the basis of our feelings, but our feelings being processed through our mental system. So it's important at this time, and I'm never one to say don't trust your gut instinct, but at this time it really is important to balance fact and feeling, head and heart. That has to be, as usual, it has to be a balance, but it is important to look at the facts or intellectualize something at this time is quite okay. We may also find that our moods and ideas and opinions may change in an instant, because the influence of Gemini is very changeable and mercurial, and Mercury is Gemini's ruling planet, and inconstant. It's like Gemini is a sign that can see all sides of something, never one particular way of doing or seeing something, And so it's important to give yourself as much flexibility as possible during the next few weeks. Many of us will be curious about many things. Gemini is a very curious sign. Curious sign, that sounds a bit strange, but a sign filled with curiosity. How about that? So Gemini is always curious and wanting to know and interested, not for a long period of time. They have a very short attention span. So if you're a Gemini or you have any Geminis in your life, apply this information to the Gemini in your life. Geminis love to learn new things. It's a great time to start a class or a course. As I said, very curious. And before I mentioned reading, magazines, books, anything you can get your hands on. Surfing the internet is a good thing to do as much as possible during this time. The internet's full of wonderfully diverse and interesting information and things and whatever you can think of. Very, very Gemini. And our mind would love to flit from one thing to another. Geminis also have the reputation of, not Geminis having ADD, but the idea of ADD or the influence of ADD has always reminded me of something that's very Gemini. It's like can't hold your attention span for too long, get bored and distracted and moving on to the next thing. And so this combined with an insatiable curiosity means that many of us may get very bored rather quickly. Our attention span will be fairly short and maybe, superficially may find ourselves not really delving beyond appearances or not wanting to dive beneath the surface. So it's not really a great time for research and investigation. It's more about piquing our interest at a surface level. And if there's lots of facts and information coming at us, this is a good time to sort through that, but not to focus on any one thing for too long. Variety rather than depth will be our strength at this time. And when we're relaxed or relaxing, this is a playful period as well. Gemini is very witty and clever and playful. And as I keep saying, it's a good time to be social, get to know a lot of people, make new friends, go through your address book, reach out to people you haven't spoken to or heard from in a while. There's a wide range of interests that many of us will be involved with. And also, it's a great time for networking, wonderful time for networking. So any sort of social event, particularly if it's for work or career, it's a great time to get out there. And as I said, for introverts and extroverts alike. And you can never really go astray when you strive to improve your communications and connections with others. And this is an excellent time to achieve these types of results. Now, as I said, the air signs, a Gemini, Libra and Aquarius, or anyone with planets in air signs will be feeling the effect of the sun moving into Gemini more so. We all benefit from all the astrological influences, but some of us a lot more than others. Now, some keywords for Gemini: cerebral, intellectual, adaptable, duality, changeable, alert, curious, communicative, flexible, quick-witted, restless, practical, dexterous, expressive, literary, sociable, versatile, tolerant, open-minded, learns easily, active, resourceful, a jack or Jill of all trades, fluent, studious, responsive, worrisome, diffusive, indecisive, superficial, nervous, impatient, talkative, unemotional, and two-faced. Now, two-faced, Gemini's symbol is the twins. And the reason that the symbol of Gemini is the twins because Gemini is so quick and adaptable and gets bored easily and can see all points of view. Some other signs may not understand the quick nature of Gemini, and so sometimes Gemini can have a reputation for being two-faced or for saying one thing and then later on saying something else. And the reason is because Gemini usually, like similar to the other air signs, can see all sides of a situation. Gemini is not a fixed sign, it's a mutable sign, so it's very flexible and adaptable. So it's very much about, it can see one point of view at the moment and then maybe later on it can see the other point of view. And it's not, they can be fickle. The influence of Gemini is fickle, but it's also very adaptable and changeable. And that's the reason why. Some of the other signs that might be more fixed or not as adaptable as Gemini don't understand the energy of this sign. So if you have any Geminis in your life, think about how they are and if these keywords are fitting with them in some area of their life. So as I said, Gemini is a mutable sign. The other mutable signs being Virgo, Sagittarius, and Pisces. So Gemini is a mutable sign. It's an air sign. The other air signs are Libra and Aquarius. And Gemini is ruled by Mercury. Now, Mercury is the planet of communication. Mercury also rules Virgo. So both Gemini and Virgo are ruled by Mercury. And both these signs are very quick-minded in different ways, but very quick-minded, very intellectual, very good with detail, and very much adaptable and changeable. So Gemini is ruled by Mercury. And a key word of Gemini is mercurial. So after the break, I will continue with the Sun in Gemini and then the full moon in Sagittarius. And of course, as always, at the end of the show, I will give you your weekly horoscope. More after the break.
A conscious lifestyle for a mindful life. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Looking for inspiration?
Want to be inspired?
Not sure where to go?
Find Mark and Kim every Wednesdays at 3 p.m. Eastern on Inspired Living.
Topics will elevate consciousness and range from metaphysics to the human and social experience and all things spiritual.
Welcome to an inspired community that offers support, encouragement, and new ways of thinking. You are the inspired and the inspiration.
Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community. Simone Milicis would like you to know that business can be fun, which is why she wrote the book, Joy of Business. What if you could have the joy of business rather than the stress and struggle? Most of the time, the only thing stopping you from a thriving business is you. In the Joy of Business book, Simone gives you access consciousness tools and pragmatic ways to get out of your own way and to create the business, life, and living you know is possible and beyond what this reality says is achievable. Business is joy. It's creation. It's generative. It can be the adventure of living. You can purchase your copy of the book through Amazon or Joy of Business website, www.accessjoyofbusiness.com.
Live with medium Lisa Phoenix, Mediumship Messages and Musings, explores mediumship and all things metaphysical. Lisa Phoenix invites you to reach above and beyond your everyday experiences, to explore new dimensions in the spirit world. She will do live readings to connect callers to their loved ones in spirit, shares engaging stories and teachings from her own personal experience, and will have intriguing conversations with other mediums, spiritual teachers, and healers to help you understand the metaphysical world so you can connect to these forces in your day-to-day life. Join your host on this magical and metaphysical journey into the world of spirit every Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time.
Feed your soul with waves of consciousness on OMTimes Radio.
Hi there, and welcome back to the Astrology Show. I'm Kelly Fox, your host and astrologer. This week, I'm talking about the Sun moving into Gemini on Friday and the full moon in Sagittarius on Saturday and how that affects you. So, Sun in Gemini, Friday through June 20th. And what does that mean? Think about the Geminis in your life. You might be one, or you might be closely related to one. And so some of the keywords for the Sun in Gemini be cerebral, adaptable, changeable, curious, communicative, flexible, quick-witted, restless, practical, expressive, sociable, versatile, tolerant, open-minded, resourceful, studious, if they don't get too bored with that, worrisome, indecisive, impatient, talkative, unemotional, and sometimes two-faced. And famous Geminis include Donald Trump, Kanye West, Johnny Depp, Angelina Jolie, Morgan Freeman, the Olsen twins, Mary Kate and Ashley, Kate Upton, Mark Wahlberg, Natalie Portman, Nicole Kidman, Colin Farrell, Liz Hurley. They were the ones that I just found with the Sun in Gemini. Now, those keywords make me think that these people are good actors, of course, famous, but being very versatile and intellectual, seems like acting is right up there for Gemini, something that might come easily. Now, with the Sun in Gemini, how will that be affecting your sign over the coming weeks? So if you're an Aries, the Sun in Gemini will be triggering this part of your life, which is the intellect, thought, learning, communication, short trips, siblings, and neighbours. So anything in that realm of your life will be triggered by the Sun in Gemini. If you're a Taurus, it's about spending and saving money, possessions and attitudes toward money in general. This is a time to really look at your finances or your financial picture and see where you can make changes, or see where you can research or find out more information in general. If you're a Gemini and the Sun is in your sign, a happy birthday to you over the next few weeks. And this is a time where it's all about your appearance and your individuality and making changes to your appearance. This is a time for that as well. If you're a Cancer, the subconscious mind, seclusion, the intangible, intuition, institutions, and karma. So over the next few weeks, these things might be highlighted for you. If you're a Leo, friends and acquaintances, groups, clubs, associations, hopes, and wishes. When the Sun is in Gemini, this is a great time for you to get out there and socialize and accept all social invitations. This includes online and offline. If you're a Virgo, the Sun in Gemini is all about your career at this time. So it's career, status, achievements, prestige, and authority. If you're a Libra, this is good for you, because you're also an air sign like Gemini and Aquarius. So for you, this is about publishing, higher education, legalities, anything to do with overseas, in-laws, religion, and anything philosophical. If you're a Scorpio, this is a time for you for money and shared resources, taxes, inheritance, insurance, recycling, sex, and regeneration. If you're a Sagittarius, this is a time for marriage, business partnerships, agreements, and rivals. Gemini is your opposite sign, and anytime there's an influence in your opposite sign, it highlights relationships and connection to other people. If you're a Capricorn, when the sun is in Gemini, for you, this is a time for health, diet and fitness, daily routine, employees, pets, and being of service. So it's a great time to mix up your exercise routine a little bit. If you're an Aquarian, it's a time for romance, courtship, entertainment, amusements, pleasure, creativity, and children. And finally, if you're a Pisces, when the sun is in Gemini, there's a focus for you on home, family, parents, and ancestors. So on Saturday, we have a full moon in Sagittarius, and it is at 1 degree Sagittarius, so it's very early in the sign of Sagittarius, which means that the energy of Sagittarius is amplified. And as I said, Sagittarius is the opposite sign to Gemini. Opposite signs are connected as they become the shadow of each other. And it's all about finding the balance when two signs are opposed or opposite. And that's interesting because full moons are all about oppositions and standing opposed and finding a balance. So, of course, a full moon is very hard to miss in the sky. It's when the moon is bright and round. And what happens is we might feel a little bit of an unusual vibe in the air when there's a full moon, maybe a little bit of excitement. There's lots of myths around full moons and the effects of full moons. And I'm thinking werewolves come to mind, or dogs howling at the moon. That's nothing to do with astrology. It's just myth and Hollywood sort of all mixed together. And, you know, sometimes people do behave strangely during full moon's display. And, of course, as we know, the ocean tides rise higher during a full moon due to the gravitational pull. And that sort of explains why some people might behave oddly, since our bodies are also comprised of over 80% water. So that makes sense to me why some people react to full moons. If the tides are being affected, look how big the oceans are compared to us little humans by comparison. So the bright light of the full moon can cause restlessness, particularly when we're sleeping. So you might find tossing and turning through the night, Friday night, Saturday night. And don't be surprised if your dreams are more vivid and action-filled than usual. Particularly with this full moon, because Sagittarius is very action-oriented. It's a very dynamic sign, always on the go, always moving. Full moons can trigger our intuition because the moon is all about intuition and instinct. And we might make some realizations around not just this full moon, but about any full moon, particularly when we're in moments of contemplation or quiet moments or meditation. And of course, the full moon has been known to be especially romantic for couples who want to bask in her glorious light during a nighttime stroll. How romantic does that sound? Full moons can also represent a time when we begin to see the potential benefits of work that was initiated during the new moon. Because with astrology, everything's about cycles. And each month we have a brand new cycle. And it begins with the new moon, which was 2 weeks ago. And now we're approaching the full moon, And the new moon was Friday, the 6th of May, and this full moon is Saturday, the 21st. So, anything that was started... Oh, excuse me, I've got a frog in my throat. Anything that was started during the new moon will culminate at the full moon. So what that means is the phases of the moon, new moons are all about beginnings, and full moons are all about culmination or illumination. So things sort of reach a climax or a peak during the full moon, and something comes about, or something becomes more obvious, or something is illuminated. It's about self-awareness and fulfillment. And anything that was friction created or impasses during that two-week period of the new moon can be broken down. And also during the full moon, its powerful beams shine a light on the darker spaces that are difficult to see. So as I said, the full moon illuminates what has been going on since the new moon 2 weeks beforehand. So the point from which the moon increases in size from the new moon to the full moon is waxing. And after the full moon, it's waning when it goes back to start the cycle again. Now, this full moon is in Sagittarius, and Sagittarius is a very optimistic and happy-go-lucky sign. So many people will be in happy, jolly moods and very active because Sagittarius is a fire sign, and fire signs are very active signs. Right now, we're going to take a break. After the break, I will continue with the Sagittarius full moon and then your weekly horoscope.
The future of Internet radio is here. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Eros Evolution is where sexuality and spirituality meets. Join me, clinical sexologist Martha Tara Lee, on Eros Evolution on Thursdays, 4 p.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio.
Being a radio host on IOM FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the Internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single OMTimes endeavor. Host your show with OMTimes Radio Network. Have you ever wondered how to change your love paradigm? The secret key is finding a love partnership, not just a regular connection. How do you find these? Through conscious relationships. Ascending Hearts Dating is a dating site for people like you that believes in second chances and a different type of spiritual connection. Try Ascending Hearts for free today at ascendinghearts.com and change your love paradigm. Ascending Hearts, the premier dating community for the spiritually awake.
Dr. Kevin here, and I want to invite you every Thursday, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, to join me on the Dr. Kevin Show, where we have a diversity of guests who help you step outside the box, behind the curtain, and see what a load of crap is going on in the world today, so you have more information with which to make better decisions. We'll see you there. Namaste.
Your conscious connection to a more mindful world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Hi there, welcome back to the Astrology Show. I'm your host and astrologer, Kelly Fox. This week, I'm talking about the Sun in Gemini on Friday and the Sagittarius full moon on Saturday. And so with the Sagittarius full moon, Sagittarius is a sign that's very optimistic and hopeful and action-oriented and always on the go, and a philosopher, an explorer, adventurer. So that's the energy, or they're the keywords for the energy of this full moon on Saturday. On the flip side, Sagittarius can sometimes be quite dogmatic and very focused on one thing and not being able to see anything else. On that note, though, it's very flexible. So we have a lot of flexibility and compromise at this time, with the Sun in Gemini and the full moon in Sagittarius. But any sort of recent steps that many of us might have taken at the new moon 2 weeks ago might be coming together. So we're definitely not bored at this time with this type of energy. And there's a lot of fun around the thought of Sagittarius. Sagittarius is a fun, happy-go-lucky sign. So its influence of the full moon will come about or manifest in those types of ways. And then Sagittarius is also the sign of travel, long-distance travel. So if there's any trips that you have planned, that would be a time to make arrangements, going on a trip. Even with Gemini, Gemini is a sign of short trips and Sagittarius is a sign of long trips. So with a trip, we might be pleasantly surprised at how well the trip is going, or what we're learning, or the experiences that we're gaining from the trip. Many of us will be in bright spirits with the full moon in Sagittarius. It's a good time to connect with others when the full moon is in Sagittarius, particularly of like-minded people. So if there's any sort of group or class, connecting with other people where you have a common interest, that means there could be a lot of fun to be had. Sagittarius is a happy-go-lucky sign, so many of us will be feeling lucky for no particular reason and feeling quite impulsive. With Sagittarius full moon, it's about being impulsive and flexible, and there's a lot of positive attitude that's going around at this time as well. Even dark and doomy, gloomy people won't even be able to get many of us down. So the days will be looking bright and glorious for any sort of negative vibe. And as I said, Sagittarius is a very sociable sign. Gemini is a very sociable sign. So it's a great time to get out there to any sort of event where you can meet other people. You might find that because you're so energetic with these influences, that you'll have other people gravitating towards you, which of course is a definite plus in anyone's book. Although take care not to talk too much, or to talk too much about one thing, or to be too dogmatic about one particular thing with the full moon in Sagittarius. Sometimes the influence of Sagittarius can be a bit like foot in mouth. So take care with not to blurt things out, to really think things through first. Our optimism might get the better of us, and that's where the blurting foot in mouth thing comes in under this type of influence. So how does the Sagittarius full moon affect you and your sign? If you're an Aries, Saturday's full moon in Sagittarius will highlight publishing, higher education, legalities, anything to do with overseas or foreign places, in-laws, religion, philosophy. If you're a Taurus, this Sagittarius full moon will affect shared resources, taxes, inheritance, insurance, recycling, sex and regeneration. If you're a Gemini, the Sagittarius full moon is all about marriage, business partnerships, agreements and rivals. If you're a Cancer, Sagittarius full moon is about health, diet and fitness, daily routine, employees, pets and being of service. If you're a Leo, Sagittarius full moon, it's about romance, courtship, entertainment, amusements, pleasure, creativity, and children. If you're a Virgo, Sagittarius full moon illuminates home, family, parents, and ancestors. If you're a Libra, Sagittarius full moon highlights the intellect, thoughts, learning, communication, short trips, siblings, and neighbours. If you're a Scorpio, this Sagittarius full moon is about money, spending and saving, possessions, and attitudes toward money in general. If you're a Sagittarius, this is your annual full moon, and it highlights you. You are in the spotlight under your annual full moon, and it's about appearance and individuality. If you're a Capricorn, the Sagittarius full moon highlights the subconscious, seclusion, the intangible, intuition, institutions, and karma. This is an important time for you to pay attention to your dreams. If you're an Aquarian, the Sagittarian full moon highlights friends and acquaintances, groups, clubs, association, hopes, and wishes. If you're a Pisces, this full moon highlights career, status, achievements, prestige, and authority. Now for your weekly horoscope. Aries, you strongly believe you are right on a controversial issue, and perhaps you are. However, your forthright views leave no room for anyone else's opinion, and that dogmatism could be an issue this week. If you're a Taurus, your weekly horoscope highlights the full moon will bring you face to face with a fear, but only so that you can conquer it. Embrace the scary moments this week because you are much stronger than you think. You really can do this. If you're a Gemini, this week, with the sun arriving in your sign and the full moon in your relationship sector, this week is about balancing your own ego against the needs of your partner. Seek compromises and don't be selfish. If you're a Cancer, this week's full moon is rather draining for you. This prompts you to take a careful look at your habits and routines. Are you trying to do too much or not getting enough sleep? Work out how you can fix that. If you're a Leo and you're not following a passion in your life, events this week will underline that you should be. Whatever it is that you keep putting to one side will demand your attention now. And you know what, Leo? It's about time. If you're a Virgo, this week's full moon challenges you to understand that you cannot fix everything. Some experiences just have to be lived through. It's from these that you learn. Relax and go with the flow of life. If you're a Libra, speaking from the heart is important this week. Don't self-censor or feel that you mustn't speak out because someone needs to hear your words. You may be able to right a wrong or to speak up for the vulnerable. If you're a Scorpio, a mini financial crisis is your gift from the full moon. A gift, yes, because this vibe will help you to understand that money isn't everything. Materialism becomes less important to you from here on in. If you're a Sagittarius, as I said, this is your annual full moon, and it urges you to put yourself first this week. It's not selfish to attend to your own needs. You can't help anyone else if you're tired, drained, or jaded. Pamper yourself, but without the guilt. If you're a Capricorn, take some time out to be alone this week. It's okay to enjoy your own company. You don't have to be sociable the whole time. Enjoying quiet moments of solitude refreshes you now, ready for what is to come. If you're an Aquarian, issues within your social circle come to a head, and there could be drama here around the time of the full moon on Saturday. Where a friendship has been outgrown, it may simply be kindest to move on. Now, Aquarius is the sign of friendships, so that may be very challenging for you to do because many Aquarians consider everybody to be their friend, and this will be tough to sever a friendship that is no longer working. But the full moon is all about illumination and highlighting what has been hidden. If you're a Pisces, breathe a sigh of relief as you complete an important project at work. Before you rush headlong into your next task, take time to consider how far you've come this year and to set your course for the future. That is your weekly horoscope for this week. And this week, we're looking at the sun moving into Gemini and the full moon in Sagittarius. Both mutable signs, adaptable, changeable, flexible. So this is a week for compromising and perhaps changing course if need be. Thank you for joining me on tonight's show. This is the Astrology Show, and I'm your host and astrologer, Kelly Fox, and I look forward to next week's show talking about the planetary influences and what's happening at that time. Thanks for joining me. Catch you next week.